Miss Sophia, Ethan said you should wear the bridesmaid dress today. I looked at the pink bridesmaid gown in my hand, then at the white wedding dress on the vanity that belonged to me. Lily, say that again? Lily wore a victor's smile on her face. The bride is someone else, just cooperate. I tore up the invitation on the spot and sneered, tell Ethan the wedding is cancelled. In the dressing room, I adjusted the straps of my wedding dress in front of the mirror. Today was my wedding with Ethan. After a full year of preparation, I was finally marrying the man I had loved for 3 years. Knock, knock, knock. The door knocked, and Ethan's secretary Lily pushed the door open. She carried a pink bridesmaid dress in her hand. Miss Sophia, change into this. I was stunned. What do you mean? Lily placed the dress in front of me, smiling gently. Ethan changed his mind temporarily and thinks the bride today should be a more suitable person. A more suitable person? My heart began to pound wildly. Yes, it's me. Lily said without concealment, after all, Ethan and I are the ones truly in love, you're just a stand-in. The air in the dressing room froze instantly. I stared at her intently. Are you joking? Of course not. Lily adjusted her hair. Look, I also did bridal makeup today. The wedding dress is just outside the door. Ethan said to have you cooperate, wear the bridesmaid dress, and be our bridesmaid. My hands clenched into fists tightly. Lily, do you know what you're saying? Of course I do. A hint of triumph flashed in her eyes. From 3 years ago, Ethan has always loved me. You think being the Sioux family's heiress makes you superior? In the face of love, what does status matter? I took a deep breath, forcing myself to calm down. Where is Ethan? He's waiting in the preparation room, probably changing into his suit. Lily glanced at her watch. Time is running out, hurry and change. The guests have all arrived. I looked at myself in the mirror wearing the white wedding dress. That girl full of anticipation, ready to step into a new phase of life. 3 years of affection, 1 year of preparation all turned into a colossal joke at this moment. I slowly removed the crown from my head and placed it on the vanity. Lily, are you sure this is Ethan's intention? Of course, if you don't believe me, you can go ask him. I nodded. Fine, I'll go ask him right now. A flash of panic crossed Lily's face. You should change first. If the guests see you, it won't be good. No need. I lifted the hem of my wedding dress and strode toward the door. I'll go ask him just like this and see if Ethan has the guts to say those words to my face. Lily tried to stop me but was pushed aside by me. I pushed open the dressing room door, and immediately a server approached in the hallway. Miss Sophia, the wedding is about to start. Where is Ethan? In the preparation room, but according to tradition, the bride and groom shouldn't see each other before the wedding. I ignored her words and headed straight to the preparation room. Behind me came Lily's hurried footsteps. Miss Sophia, don't be impulsive. Impulsive? I sneered. If this isn't impulsive, what is? I kicked open the preparation room door with one foot. Ethan was adjusting his tie, and upon seeing me, his face turned pale instantly. Sophia, how? Ethan, you're making me wear a bridesmaid dress and be a bridesmaid for you and Lily? I stared into his eyes, asking word by word. Ethan's hand froze in midair, and sweat began to bead on his forehead. Sophia, let me explain. Explain what? Explain how you hooked up with your secretary behind my back. Or explain what you take me for. My voice grew louder. Outside the door, people were already peeking secretly. Ethan looked at the door in panic, then quickly stepped over to close it. I grabbed his wrist. Don't close it. Let everyone hear, let everyone know what the esteemed young master of the Gu family is really like. Miss Sophia. Ethan lowered his voice. Are you crazy? There are guests outside. I'm crazy? I laughed loudly. Yes, I am crazy. Driven crazy by you. At this moment, Lily also followed. Seeing the situation, she immediately put on a aggrieved expression. Ethan, I was just following your instructions. Shut up. Ethan glared at her viciously. Then he turned to me, softening his tone. Sophia, Lily is talking nonsense, don't believe her. I looked at the two of them and suddenly found it laughable. At this point, they were still acting, still treating me like a fool. Ethan, since you say Lily is talking nonsense, let me ask you, who do you love? Ethan didn't hesitate. Of course, it's you. Then why does Lily say you two are the true love? She's jealous of you, so she said that on purpose. I nodded. I see. Then I walked up to Lily and slapped her across the face. Slap. The crisp sound of the slap echoed in the preparation room. Lily covered her face, looking at me in disbelief. You dare hit me? Not only do I dare hit you, I dare rip your mouth apart. I grabbed her collar. What you've been doing by Ethan's side for 3 years, do you think I don't know? Late night overtime, business trips together, even following us on dates. Lily tried to break free but was held firmly by me. And now you dare come in front of me saying such things? Do you think I'm dead? Miss Sophia, let me go. Let you go? I sneered. Today, I'll let you know what it means to be the Sioux family's heiress. I released her, then took out my phone. Hello, Dad, it's me. Sophia? What's wrong? Isn't the wedding about to start? The wedding is cancelled. I want to call off the engagement. The other end of the line was silent for a few seconds. What happened? Ethan cheated. The mistress is his secretary Lily. I'll be right over. I hung up the phone and looked at Ethan. His face had turned completely pale. He knew better than anyone the Sioux family's status in the city. My dad Charles was not someone to mess with. Sophia, don't be impulsive, let's talk properly. Talk about what? I took off the engagement ring from my hand and threw it forcefully at his face. What is there to talk about? The diamond ring cut a blood mark on his face. Ethan cried out in pain and covered his face. Miss Sophia, you're going too far. Going too far? I laughed. Where am I going too far? In discovering your affair? Or in refusing to be your bridesmaid? At this point, Lily finally panicked. She knew things had escalated. Miss Sophia, it was all a misunderstanding earlier. I was just joking. Joking? I looked at her. Do you think I look like I'm joking with you? At this moment, hurried footsteps came from outside the preparation room. My dad walked in with several bodyguards. Charles was dressed in a black suit, his face as dark as water. His gaze swept around the room and finally landed on Ethan. Ethan, my daughter says you cheated, is that true? Ethan swallowed. Uncle Charles, it's a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? Charles sneered. On my daughter's wedding day, you make her be a bridesmaid for your mistress. This is called a misunderstanding? Ethan wanted to explain, but Charles didn't want to hear it anymore. He waved his hand, and the bodyguards immediately stepped forward. Escort all the Gu family people out, the wedding is cancelled. Dad. I grabbed his sleeve. I want to handle this personally. Charles looked at me, his eyes filled with pity and anger. Sophia, are you sure? Sure. I nodded. I want them to know the cost of provoking the Sioux family. Half an hour later, the hotel banquet hall was in chaos. The place where the wedding ceremony should have been held had now turned into a farce. I stood on the stage, microphone in hand. Below the stage sat relatives and friends from both families, all looking bewildered. They were still waiting to see my wedding with Ethan, but instead received news of the engagement being called off. Dear uncles, aunts, and friends. My voice spread throughout the banquet hall via the speakers. I'm very sorry, but today's wedding is cancelled. Immediately, a buzz of discussion erupted below. Cancelled? Why? What happened? Where are the bride and groom? I waited for them to quiet down and continued. The reason for the cancellation is simple. The groom cheated. This sentence exploded like a bomb in the banquet hall. Everyone was stunned. Ethan's mother Margaret immediately stood up. Miss Sophia, what nonsense are you talking? How could Ethan possibly cheat? I looked at her and smiled coldly. Aunt Margaret, your son not only cheated but also wanted me to be a bridesmaid for his mistress. do you think I should agree? Margaret's face instantly turned ugly. Who is the mistress? Lily, your family's Ethan's secretary. As soon as my words fell, a commotion arose in the crowd below. Everyone was looking around, searching for Lily's figure. Lily was sitting in a corner below the stage, wishing she could crawl into a crack in the ground. I pointed. That's her, the lady in the pink dress. All eyes turned to Lily. She sat there rigidly, her face pale. Everyone may not know that Miss Lily originally planned to wear a wedding dress today and hold the wedding with Ethan. I continued, as for me, I was supposed to wear a bridesmaid dress and applaud them from the side. The discussions below grew louder. Oh my God, this is too much. Stealing the groom on the bride's wedding day? Who is this Lily? Margaret trembled with anger. Where is Ethan? Make him come out and explain. I looked down. Mr. Ethan is in the preparation room right now, probably thinking about how to explain this. At this moment, the banquet hall door was pushed open. Ethan walked in with a face full of scratches. The blood marks on his face hadn't been treated, making him look very disheveled. Everyone looked at him. Margaret immediately walked over. Ethan, what's going on? Is what Miss Sophia said true? Ethan looked at me on the stage, then at Lily below. His Adam's apple bobbed, seemingly organizing his words. Mom, What I? Margaret was anxious. Speak up. Ethan was silent for a long time before finally saying, I'm sorry. As soon as these two words were spoken, the banquet hall instantly quieted down. Everyone understood. What Miss Sophia said was true. Ethan really had cheated. Margaret almost fainted and was supported by people nearby. You bastard. She pointed at Ethan, her fingers trembling. Do you know what you're doing? The Sue family couldn't sit still either. My second uncle Henry stood up, his face ashen. Ethan, are you toying with our Sue family? Exactly. This is simply an insult to our Sue family. We entrusted Sophia's lifelong happiness to you. The Sue family members stood up one after another, accusing Ethan. The Gu family members looked embarrassed, not knowing what to say. This kind of thing was truly too humiliating. Watching the chaos below, my heart calmed down instead. This was the effect I wanted. Let everyone know what kind of person Ethan is. Ruin his reputation. Everyone, please quiet down. I spoke again. I have more to say. The banquet hall gradually quieted down. First, I want to thank everyone for coming to my wedding today. Although the wedding is cancelled, I appreciate your kind intentions. I paused and continued. Second, I want to tell everyone some good news. Although I can't marry Ethan today, I will soon have a new beginning. The people below were stunned. A new beginning? What does that mean? I smiled. From today onward, I, Miss Sophia, will take over all affairs of the Sue group. My dad has decided to make me the heir to the Sue group. This news was even more shocking than the cheating revelation. The Sue group was one of the top enterprises in the city. Miss Sophia taking over the Sue group meant she would become one of the most powerful women in the city. Upon hearing this news, Ethan's face became even uglier. He knew what the Gu family would face if Miss Sophia really took over the Sue group. The Sue group had enough power to make the Gu family unable to survive in the city. Finally, I looked at Ethan. Mr. Ethan, all cooperation between us ends today, including all projects between the Gu group and the Sue group. Ethan's face turned ashen instantly. The Gu group's current scale was largely due to the Sue group's support. If it lost the Sue group's backing, the Gu group might never recover. Miss Sophia, you can't do this. Ethan rushed onto the stage. We can start over. I can cut ties with Lily. I looked at him, my eyes devoid of any warmth. Start over? Ethan, do you think that's possible? I really know I was wrong. You know you were wrong? I interrupted him. Do you know where you went wrong? In getting caught by me? Or in failing to deceive me successfully? Ethan opened his mouth to argue but didn't know what to say. Because what I said was all true. He never thought he was wrong. He just regretted getting caught. Miss Sophia, we've been together for 3 years, don't we have any feelings? Feelings? I sneered, I did have feelings for you, that's why I'm so angry. But now, those feelings have turned into hatred. I walked up to him and said word by word, Ethan, I hate you. I hate your betrayal, your deception, and treating me like a fool. So, I'll make you pay. What price? I leaned close to his ear and whispered, the price of leaving you with nothing. Ethan trembled all over. He knew Miss Sophia wasn't joking. The Sue family had the capability and the determination. Miss Sophia. Don't call my name. I stepped back, from today onward, we are strangers. With that, I turned and walked off the stage. The guests below automatically made way. I headed straight toward Lily. Seeing me approach, she immediately wanted to run away but was stopped by my dad's bodyguards. Miss Lily, shall we chat? Lily swallowed, Miss Sophia, we have nothing to talk about. We do. I smiled, for example, how you seduced Ethan. In the hotel's private room, it was just Lily and me. Bodyguards guarded the door, ensuring no disturbances. Lily sat on the chair, her hands clasped tightly. She had changed out of the pink dress into a black professional outfit. It looked like she was prepared to attend a funeral. Perhaps for her, today truly was a funeral, the funeral of her career. Lily, we've known each other for 3 years. I sat opposite her, my tone calm, you've always been Ethan's secretary, diligent and hardworking, bearing no complaints. Lily didn't dare meet my eyes, keeping her head down without speaking. I've always trusted you, even considered you a friend. Every time I went to the company to find Ethan, you would warmly entertain me. I continued, do you remember my birthday last year? You helped Ethan prepare a surprise, decorating the office all night. Lily's body began to tremble. At the time, I even praised you for being thoughtful, saying Ethan was lucky to have a secretary like you. I paused, then asked, when did you start coveting him? Lily finally lifted her head, her eyes filled with tears. Miss Sophia, Don't call me Miss Sophia. I interrupted her, we're enemies now, just call me by name. Lily bit her lip, Miss Sophia, I know you're very angry now, but I really love him. Love him? I sneered, do you love him as a person, or the status and position he can bring you? I love him. Lily suddenly became agitated, from the first day I joined the company, I fell in love with him. Then why didn't you confess earlier? Why wait until he was with me to start seducing him? Lily fell silent. Because she knew deep down that if Ethan hadn't been with the Sue family's heiress, an ordinary girl like her would never have caught his eye. She was able to get close to Ethan precisely because of Miss Sophia's existence. As Miss Sophia's friend, she had opportunities to contact Ethan. As Ethan's secretary, she had channels to understand him. Then she used these advantages to gradually infiltrate his life. Since you're not speaking, I'll take it as admission. I stood up and walked to the window. Lily, do you know what your biggest mistake was? What? Being too greedy. I turned to look at her. If you just wanted to be his lover, perhaps I would have turned a blind eye. But you actually wanted to steal the bride's position. That's slapping me in the face. Lily's face became even paler. Miss Sophia, I was just. Just what? Just wanting a title? Or just wanting to humiliate me? I walked back in front of her, looking down at her. Lily, do you think you're worthy of Ethan? This sentence pierced Lily's heart like a thorn. She knew that in terms of background, education, and appearance, she couldn't compare to Miss Sophia. What attracted Ethan wasn't her excellence, but her obedience and admiration. And her unscrupulous methods. I know I'm not worthy of him. Lily's voice was very soft, but I really love him. Love? I scoffed, you can't even love yourself, how can you talk about loving him? What do you mean? Someone who can abandon their own dignity. Do you think your love is valuable? I sat back in the chair. Lily, let me ask you, did Ethan ever promise to marry you? Lily was silent. Did he promise to give you a title? Lily remained silent. Did he even promise to break up with me? Lily finally shook her head. Then what were you expecting? Expecting him to suddenly have a conscience, abandon the Sue family's heiress, and choose you? My words were sharp like knives. Lily, you're too naive. If I hadn't discovered your affair today, if the wedding had proceeded normally, how do you think Ethan would treat you? Lily's tears began to fall. He would continue to be my husband, keeping you as an underground lover. You might never see the light of day, always sneaking around for life. But you were willing, right? Lily cried even harder. Because she knew what Miss Sophia said was true. If not for today's incident, she would indeed become a lover who could never be seen in public. And she was indeed willing. Miss Sophia, I know I was wrong, I apologize to you. Apologize? I shook my head. If apologies worked, what would we need police for? I took out my phone and turned on the recording function. Lily, I'll ask you a few questions, answer honestly. Lily saw the recording and immediately tensed up. What are you doing? Recording evidence. I said, first question, when did you and Ethan start? Lily hesitated. Last year. March last year. Specific date. March 15th last year. I nodded. That day was exactly Ethan's birthday. I couldn't accompany him due to work, and Lily stayed late with him for overtime. So, that's when they started. Second question, over this year, how often did you meet? On average, 2 or 3 times a week. Where did you meet? At the company, hotels, and your home. My hands clenched into fists. They actually had trysts in my and Ethan's home. This was the ultimate humiliation to me. Third question, whose idea was it to make me wear the bridesmaid dress today? Lily bit her lip. It was my idea. Did Ethan agree? He didn't agree at first, but I convinced him. How did you convince him? I said it would humiliate you and let you know your place. I took a deep breath, trying hard to control my anger. Fourth question, besides Ethan, do you have any other backers? Lily was stunned. What do you mean? I mean, is there anyone else supporting you behind the scenes? No, I'm just an ordinary secretary. I turned off the recording and put away the phone. Lily, thank you for your cooperation. Miss Sophia, what are you going to do with this recording? To ruin your life. I said without concealment, from today, you'll become the most infamous mistress in the city. You're going to make the recording public? Not only the recording, but also all your chat records, photos, and videos. Lily's face turned pale instantly. You're crazy. This won't benefit you either. No benefit to me? I laughed. Lily, you still haven't figured out the situation. I'm the victim, you're the mistress. Making these public will only make people sympathize with me and condemn you. As for Ethan, he's a scumbag and will be condemned too. But men cheating is common, people will forget soon. But you're different, you're the mistress, and such a malicious one. People will remember you for a long, long time. Lily slumped in the chair. She knew what Miss Sophia said was true. In this society, cheating men might still have a chance to turn things around, but mistresses are almost forever nailed to the pillar of shame. Especially malicious ones like her. Miss Sophia, please, let me go. Lily knelt on the ground. I won't dare anymore. I can leave this city and never appear before you again. It's too late. I looked at her. If you had honestly been underground lovers, perhaps I would have given you a way out. But you shouldn't have humiliated me. I was wrong, I really know I was wrong. Knowing you were wrong means bearing the consequences. I walked to the door. Lily, enjoy the rest of your life. I opened the door, and the bodyguards immediately came in. Take her home, then send someone to watch her, don't let her run away. Yes, Miss Sophia. I walked out of the private room and glanced back at the still crying Lily. This was just the beginning. Next, I would make Ethan pay as well. The next morning, the entire city exploded. Major media and social platforms were filled with news about heiress forced to be bridesmaid on her wedding day. Overnight, I became the hottest topic in the city. However, almost everyone was on my side. This is too much. It's an insult to the bride. Ethan and Lily are simply inhuman. Miss Sophia did the right thing, such a scumbag should be abandoned. I sat in the Sue Group's office, looking at online comments, feeling fairly good. The secretary knocked and entered. Sophia, the Goo Group's stock price has fallen by 15% and is still dropping. What about Ethan? He called you 37 times last night and sent over 80 messages, none of which you replied to. This morning, he came to the company again, waited downstairs for 2 hours, and was driven away by security. I nodded, let him keep waiting. Also, Lily tried to leave the city last night but was stopped by our people. She's now under house arrest at home. Good. I put down the phone, notify the finance department to prepare to acquire Goo Group's shares. Take advantage of the low stock price and buy more. You want to control the Goo Group? Yes, I want Ethan to watch his own company be acquired by me. The secretary nodded and left. I continued handling company affairs. Taking over the Sue Group was easier than I imagined because I had watched my dad manage the company since childhood and was familiar with many things. Moreover, with yesterday's events as a foundation, the company's employees didn't dare question my abilities. At noon, my dad came to see me. Sophia, you handled things well yesterday. Charles sat opposite me, but do you really need to be so ruthless? Dad, do you think I should let them go? Not let them go, but leave them a way out. Charles said, the Goo family has some foundation in the city after all. If you really push them to the wall, there might be unexpected consequences. I thought for a moment, you're worried they'll act desperately? That's possible. Then let them act. I sneered, I'd like to see what tricks Ethan can pull. Charles looked at me with some concern. Sophia, revenge may feel satisfying, but don't let hatred blind you. Dad, I know my limits. Good then. Charles stood up, I'll go greet a few old friends and tell them not to cooperate with the Goo Group anymore. Thank you, Dad. After Charles left, I continued working. At 3 in the afternoon, the secretary knocked again. Sophia, there's a lady claiming to be Margaret who wants to see you. Margaret? Ethan's mother? Let her in. A few minutes later, Margaret was ushered in. She looked much more haggard, her eyes red and swollen, obviously from crying. Miss Sophia, I've come to apologize. Margaret bowed as soon as she entered. It's all my son's fault, I apologize on his behalf. I didn't stand up, still sitting in the chair. Aunt Margaret, you're too polite. Please sit. After Margaret sat down, tears began to fall again. Sophia, I know Ethan has wronged you, but please, give him a chance, okay? What chance? A chance to reform. Margaret cried, he really knows he was wrong, he didn't sleep all night last night, constantly blaming himself. I looked at her expressionlessly. Aunt Margaret, if self-blame worked, there would be no bad people in the world. Moreover, I think you've got something wrong. I interrupted her, Ethan didn't just wrong me, he betrayed me. The nature of the two is completely different. Margaret was stunned. Wronging is an unintentional mistake, betrayal is deliberate. Ethan and Lily's affair has lasted a year, this isn't impulse, it's premeditated. But he really regrets it. Regrets getting caught, or regrets doing it? I countered. Margaret couldn't speak. Because she knew deep down that if not discovered, Ethan wouldn't regret it at all. He would continue enjoying the warmth from both wife and lover. Aunt Margaret, I understand your feelings as a mother. My tone softened slightly, but some things, once done, have no turning back. Sophia, please, for the sake of our two families' long-standing relationship. Relationship? I sneered, Aunt Margaret, do you think we still have a relationship? Your son making me be a bridesmaid for his mistress on my wedding day, this is called a relationship? Your son having trysts with the mistress in my home, this is called a relationship? Your son deceiving me for a whole year, this is also called a relationship? With each sentence, my voice rose. By the end, I was almost roaring. Margaret was intimidated by my aura and didn't dare speak again. Aunt Margaret, I'll say it one last time. I stood up. From yesterday, I have no relation with the Gu family. The Su family won't provide any help to the Gu family anymore. This is the path Ethan chose himself, let him walk it. Sophia. Please leave. I didn't want to hear her anymore. If you have any self-respect as a mother, don't come begging me again. Margaret was hurt by my words. She stood up, looking into my eyes. Sophia, you've changed. Yes, I've changed. I didn't deny it. After being deceived and betrayed, people change. This is the growth gift you gave me. Margaret said nothing more and turned to leave. After she left, I sat down again. The sunlight outside was nice, but my mood was complex. It's false to say I'm not sad. After all, I was with Ethan for 3 years and had feelings for Margaret too. But some things, once happened, can't be undone. Not all apologies can earn forgiveness. Not all regrets deserve pardon. When getting off work in the evening, the secretary told me a message. Sophia, the Gu Group's closing price today fell by 28%, close to the limit down. How many shares have we acquired? 15%, we've become the second largest shareholder. Continue acquiring, I want control. Yes. Also, what did Ethan do today? In the morning, he went to several banks to apply for emergency loans, all rejected. In the afternoon, he sought several partners, who all said to suspend cooperation. I nodded. It seems my dad's friends are very supportive. Sophia. As I walked out of the company gate, I heard a familiar voice. Ethan stood across the road, looking at me through the traffic. His face was haggard, eyes bloodshot. He really looked like he hadn't slept all night. I ignored him and headed straight to the parking lot. Sophia, can we talk? Ethan ran across the road and caught up to me. We have nothing to talk about. I said without turning back. We do, we have a lot to say. Ethan blocked my way. Sophia, I know you're angry now, but we really can't end like this. Why not? I stopped and looked at him. Give me a reason. Because I love you. Love me? I laughed. Ethan, don't you feel disgusted saying that now? I really love you. The thing with Lily was just a momentary confusion. Momentary confusion for a year? I was just bewitched by her. I'm clear-headed now. I looked at his sincere expression, finding it only laughable in my heart. At this point, he was still acting, still trying to move me with false affection. Ethan, do you know your biggest problem? What? You never think you're wrong. I said word by word, you just regret getting caught, regret losing the Su family's support, regret your plan being exposed. But you've never felt guilty for betraying me. Ethan wanted to refute but found himself speechless. Because what I said was true. Sophia, I really know I was wrong. Know you were wrong? I interrupted, then tell me, where were you wrong? Ethan opened his mouth and finally said, I was wrong in cheating. Just that? I was wrong in deceiving you. And what else? Ethan thought for a long time but couldn't say anything else. I shook my head. See, you don't even know where you truly went wrong. You don't know how humiliating it is to make me wear a bridesmaid dress on my wedding day. You don't know how disgusting it is to have trysts with another woman in our home. You don't know how hateful it is to deceive me behind my back for a year. You just think since your cheating was discovered, an apology can start over. I turned and continued to the parking lot. Ethan, you're too naive. On the third day, things began developing as I expected. The Gu Group's stock price continued to fall, breaking below the issue price. Several important clients canceled cooperation, all citing re-evaluating partners. The banks started demanding loan repayments, requiring the Gu Group to repay early. Ethan was frantic, running around, but with little effect. Meanwhile, I methodically acquired Gu Group's shares. By the afternoon, I held 32% of the Gu Group's shares, surpassing Ethan's 30%, becoming the largest shareholder. This meant I could now influence major decisions at the GU Group. Sophia, Ethan wants to see you. The secretary knocked and entered. He says he has important matters to discuss. Let him in. A few minutes later, Ethan was brought in. Compared to the previous 2 days, he looked even more haggard. His suit was wrinkled, hair unkempt, beard stubbly. He had lost all his usual elite image. Sophia. He sat opposite me, his voice somewhat hoarse. We need to talk. We do need to talk. I put down the file in my hand, about the future of the GU Group. Ethan was stunned. What do you mean? I am now the largest shareholder of the GU Group and have the right to decide the company's direction. I looked at him. How do you think I'll handle the GU Group? Ethan's face turned pale instantly. He never expected Miss Sophia to acquire the GU Group's shares and become the largest shareholder. When did you? From yesterday. I didn't hide it. Taking advantage of the stock price drop, I acquired a large number of shares. Miss Sophia, this is revenge. Revenge? I laughed. Ethan, you think too highly of yourself. I'm just doing business. The GU Group stock is low now. It's a good time to buy bottom. But your acquisition of the GU Group is obviously to what? I interrupted him. To revenge on you? Ethan, the GU Group isn't yours alone. There are other shareholders and thousands of employees. I acquired the GU Group to save these innocent people. Ethan was choked by my words. Because legally, I hadn't done anything wrong. Acquiring shares is legitimate business. And with the SU Group's strength, it could indeed save the troubled GU Group. Sophia, please, sell the shares to me. Ethan's attitude softened. Name your price, I'll pay any amount. Any amount? I looked at him. Ethan, do you have money now? Ethan was silent. Of course, he had no money. To maintain the GU Group's operations, he had mortgaged all possible assets. Now, besides the remaining 30% shares, he had almost nothing. Since you have no money, don't say such things. I picked up the file again. Let's talk about practical issues. What issues? The restructuring of the GU Group. I looked at him. I plan to fully restructure the GU Group, including adjustments to management. Ethan's heart began to race. You want to remove me? What do you think? I countered. A president with a chaotic private life and ruined reputation, is he suitable to continue leading the company? I'm the founder. My dad passed the company to me. Wasn't the founder your dad? I reminded him. Moreover, now I'm the largest shareholder and have the right to decide the president. Ethan trembled. Miss Sophia, you can't do this. Why can't I? I stood up and walked to the window. Ethan, do you really think you're that important? Without you, the GU Group can still operate. And it might operate better. I've contacted several professional managers. They're all interested in working at the GU Group. I turned to look at him. One of them is returning from overseas and has managed a company 10 times larger than the GU Group. Ethan slumped in the chair. He knew that if he lost the GU Group, he would truly have nothing. Miss Sophia, we once loved each other. Doesn't that deserve some mercy? Loved each other? I sneered. Ethan, are you sure we once loved each other? Of course. We were together for 3 years. I've always loved you. Then what about Lily? When you were with her, did you think of me? Ethan was silent. When you were intimate with her in our home, did you think of me? When you planned to make me a bridesmaid, did you think of my feelings? My voice grew louder. Ethan, is this what you call love? I was just momentarily confused. Momentarily confused? I walked up to him. Ethan, do you know what momentary confusion means? Momentary confusion is doing something wrong on impulse and regretting it immediately. But you planned a year's betrayal. This isn't confusion, it's disgusting. Ethan was hurt by my words, his face becoming very ugly. Miss Sophia, you're going too far. Too far? I laughed. Where am I too far? In speaking the truth? You say you love me, but your actions betray your heart. Someone who truly loves me wouldn't be with another woman behind my back. Someone who truly loves me wouldn't have trysts with another woman in our home. Someone who truly loves me certainly wouldn't make me wear a bridesmaid dress on my wedding day. I said word by word, Ethan, you've never loved me. You loved only the identity of the Sue family's heiress, only the benefits I could bring you. No. I really love you. Then why cheat? I. Ethan couldn't speak. Because he knew no matter what reason he gave, it couldn't explain his behavior. Ethan, everything between us is over. I returned to my seat, whether emotions or cooperation, it's all over. What about the Goo Group? The Goo Group will continue to exist, but it won't belong to you anymore. I looked at him, you can choose to sell your shares and leave, or stay but only as an ordinary employee. I choose the third path. What third path? Ethan suddenly stood up, a ruthless glint in his eyes, fight to the death. I frowned, what do you want to do? I'll convene a shareholders meeting and let all shareholders know the real purpose of your acquisition of the Goo Group. Ethan sneered, I'll let them know you're using personal grudges to revenge on me. Then what? Then unite other shareholders to oppose you together. I looked at him and suddenly laughed. Ethan, you're really naive. What do you mean? You think other shareholders will stand with you? I shook my head, they only care about their own interests. Now the Goo Group is in trouble, stock price falling, they can't wait for someone to save the company. And the Sue Group has the strength, I have the ability. In comparison, what can you give them? Besides trouble, more trouble. Ethan's face became even uglier. Because he knew Miss Sophia was right. In business, there are no eternal friends, only eternal interests. Other shareholders wouldn't abandon their interests out of sympathy for him. Miss Sophia, do you really need to be so ruthless? I've already given you choices. I stood up, either sell your shares and leave, or stay as an employee. I won't leave. Ethan gritted his teeth, the Goo Group was left to me by my dad, I won't hand it over. Then stay as an employee. I said indifferently, but I remind you, an ordinary employee's salary isn't high, probably only 1/10 of your current income. Moreover, as an employee with a record, you'll need stricter supervision. Ethan trembled with anger, Miss Sophia, you'll regret this. Regret? I laughed, Ethan, the only thing I regret now is knowing you. Also, from tomorrow, I'll arrange for HR to discuss your new job assignment. You'd better think clearly about your attitude, because this might be your last chance. Ethan glared at me viciously, then turned and left. After he left, I sat down again and continued processing files. But my mood was somewhat complex. It's false to say I'm not sad. After all, I once deeply loved this person. But some things, once happened, can't be undone. Betrayal is betrayal, hurt is hurt. It won't vanish with an apology. On the fourth day, the Goo Group held an emergency shareholders meeting. The conference room was filled with shareholders big and small, each face showing worry. The Goo Group's plight was known to all, they worried their investments would be lost. As the largest shareholder, I sat in the chairman's seat. Ethan sat opposite me, his face gloomy. Dear shareholder friends, thank you for attending today's meeting amid your busy schedules. I opened, this meeting is mainly to discuss the future development direction of the Goo Group with everyone. Miss Sophia, we all know you're the heir to the Sue Group. An elderly shareholder said, what I want to ask is, what is your true purpose in acquiring the Goo Group? This question was direct and key. I knew if my answer didn't satisfy them, they might unite to oppose me. I acquired the Goo Group for 3 purposes. I stood up and walked to the projection screen. First, the Goo Group is a company with potential and certain market competitiveness. Second, the Goo Group is facing difficulties and needs external funding support, which the Sue Group can provide. Third, by integrating the resources of both companies, we can achieve complementary advantages and create greater value. I clicked the remote, and a detailed analysis chart appeared on the screen. This is the integration plan our team prepared. According to this plan, the GU Group's revenue can grow by 150% in the next 3 years. The shareholders began studying the chart seriously. The data was detailed, the analysis professional, and it looked very convincing. Of course, I continued, to achieve this goal, we need comprehensive reforms, including optimizing management systems, adjusting personnel structures, and reshaping corporate culture. How specifically to adjust? Another shareholder asked. First is management adjustment. I glanced at Ethan. Considering recent events, the current president Mr. Ethan is no longer suitable for the position. I suggest the SU Group dispatch a professional management team to take over the GU Group's daily operations. The shareholders began whispering. They all knew about recent events and that Ethan's reputation was severely damaged. From the company image perspective, replacing Ethan was indeed wise. Everyone. Ethan couldn't hold back anymore and stood up. Miss Sophia is obviously settling personal scores. Her acquisition of the GU Group isn't for development but to revenge on me. Don't be fooled by her. I looked at him calmly. Mr. Ethan, please speak with facts, don't make personal attacks. Facts? Fine. I'll tell everyone the facts. Ethan's emotions flared. Miss Sophia and I were once lovers, we were going to marry. But due to some personal issues, we broke up. Now she's using the Su family's power to revenge on me, that's the fact. The shareholders all looked at me, waiting for my response. I remained calm. Mr. Ethan is right, we were indeed lovers. But the reason for our breakup isn't some personal issues, but is cheating and betrayal. This matter has been widely reported in the media, I believe everyone here is aware. I clicked the remote, and screenshots of major media reports appeared on the screen. Heiress forced to be bridesmaid on wedding day, groom cheats with secretary, bride calls off wedding on spot, Su heiress tears apart scumbag. The shareholders looked at these reports, their faces somewhat unpleasant. Although uninterested in Ethan's private life, such negative news did affect the company's image. Mr. Ethan, I want to ask you a question. I looked at Ethan. Do you think a president with a chaotic private life and ruined reputation is suitable to lead the company? I can change. Ethan was anxious. Private life and workability are separate. They are indeed separate. I nodded, but in modern business society, the president's personal image represents the company's image. A president plagued by negatives will affect the company's brand value, client trust, and partner choices. I scanned the shareholders. Everyone, do you think I'm right? The shareholders nodded one after another. They were all business veterans and understood this. Moreover, I continued, I acquired the GU Group not to revenge Mr. Ethan, but to save this company. If I really wanted revenge, I could use more direct ways. For example, cut off all cooperation and let the GU Group go bankrupt. But I didn't, because the GU Group has other shareholders and thousands of employees who are innocent. I can't affect so many people's livelihoods due to personal grudges. My words were reasonable, and the shareholders were convinced. Indeed, if Miss Sophia really wanted to revenge Ethan, there were many simpler methods. Choosing to acquire the GU Group shows she truly wants to save it. Everyone, the choice before us is simple. I returned to my seat, either accept the SU Group's integration plan and let the GU Group revive, or maintain the status quo and watch the company head toward bankruptcy step by step. I believe everyone is rational investors and knows how to choose. The shareholders began discussing softly. The discussions were about the feasibility of the integration plan and the SU Group's strength. But no one questioned my motives anymore. Because my logic was clear, reason sufficient. And Ethan, besides accusing me of settling personal scores, had no strong evidence. Half an hour later, the shareholders began voting. The result was unsurprising, 85% supported the SU Group's integration plan. Only 15% voted against, including Ethan himself. Then, I now formally announce. I stood up. From today, the GU Group enters a full restructuring phase. The SU Group will dispatch a management team to take over daily operations. Former President Mr. Ethan will be reassigned as an ordinary employee. If no other questions, today's meeting ends here. The shareholders stood and left one by one, some even came to shake my hand, showing support. Finally, only Ethan and I remained in the conference room. He sat in the chair, hands supporting his head, looking very dejected. "Miss Sophia, you won." He lifted his head to look at me. "You've completely ruined me." "No, Ethan. I packed the files on the table, you ruined yourself. If you hadn't cheated, if you hadn't betrayed me, none of this would happen today. All this is the result of your own choices." Ethan smiled bitterly. "You're right, this is indeed my own choice. But I don't understand why you have to be so heartless." "Heartless?" I stopped my actions and looked at him. "Ethan, you think I'm heartless? Then when you made me wear a bridesmaid dress on the wedding day, did you think that was heartless? When you had trysts with Lily in our home, did you think that was heartless? When you deceived me for a whole year, did you think that was heartless?" Ethan was silent. "You can treat me heartlessly, why can't I treat you the same? This world is fair, how you treat others, others will treat you." I picked up the files and walked to the door. "Ethan, enjoy the rest of your life." "Miss Sophia." He called from behind, "I really regret it." I stopped but didn't turn back. Regret comes too late. In the following month, the GU Group underwent earth-shaking changes. The management team sent by the SU Group quickly took over various departments and began comprehensive reforms. Employees with strong abilities and good character were retained and given better development opportunities. Those who were incompetent and formed cliques were cleared out. Ethan, as per my arrangement, was transferred to the marketing department as an ordinary salesman. His salary dropped from the original $500,000 per month to $5,000. His former office was turned into a conference room, his exclusive car was reclaimed, and even his dedicated parking spot was cancelled. Falling from the clouds to the mud, this huge drop almost broke him. But he didn't leave. Perhaps due to unwillingness, or because he had nowhere to go. Lily's situation was worse. Since being recorded by me that day, she was under house arrest at home, unable to go anywhere. Moreover, I made all her chat records, photos, and videos with Ethan public. The whole city knew she was a malicious mistress. No company was willing to hire her, no landlord to rent to her, even ride-hailing drivers refused her. She became a complete social outcast. I heard she once attempted suicide but was discovered by family and saved. Now she can only hide at home, living on family support. As for me, I was busy with company affairs. After taking over the SU Group, my work became very busy. Every day had endless meetings, files to process, clients to meet. But I enjoyed this fulfilling life. Compared to the previous idle heiress life, now I had more presence and value. Moreover, by integrating the GU Group's resources, the SU Group's strength greatly improved. We secured several originally competitive projects and opened new markets. Shareholders increasingly recognized my abilities. The only thing that made me uneasy was recently feeling like someone was following me. On the way to and from work, I often felt someone behind me. But every time I turned, I saw nothing. I thought it was my illusion and didn't pay much attention. Until that night. As usual, I worked overtime late, leaving after 10. The parking lot was quiet, with only a few dim lights. I walked to my car, took out the keys to open it. Suddenly, footsteps came from behind. I turned alertly and saw a man wearing a baseball cap standing not far away. "Who are you?" I gripped the keys tightly. The man didn't answer but slowly approached. I immediately realized something was wrong and turned to run. But it was too late. The man rushed over and grabbed my wrist. "Help!" I shouted loudly. But there was no one else in the parking lot, my voice echoed in the empty space. The man dragged me forcefully, trying to pull me to a corner. I struggled desperately, slashing his arm with the keys. "Ah!" The man cried in pain and let go. I took the chance to run to the elevator, pressing the button frantically. But the elevator was going up and wouldn't come down soon. The man clutched his arm and chased, eyes full of malice. Miss Sophia, you ruined my life, I'll ruin yours too. I recognized the voice. It was Ethan. Ethan, are you crazy? I backed against the wall, staring at him intently. Yes, I'm crazy. Ethan pulled off his hat, revealing a haggard face, driven crazy by you. His hair was messy, eyes bloodshot, looking like a madman. Do you know how I've lived this month? He approached step by step, every day pointed at, mocked, humiliated. From a favored son to a street rat, all thanks to you. That's your own choice. I tried reasoning, if you hadn't cheated, none of this would happen. Cheating? Ethan grinned ferociously. For such a small matter, you want to ruin my entire life? Small matter? I looked at him in disbelief. You think cheating is a small matter? Isn't it? Ethan said righteously, isn't it normal for men to have a few lovers? Look at those rich people, which one doesn't have multiple wives and concubines? I just had one, Lily. Is it worth making such a fuss? I looked at him in shock. This was Ethan's true face. He never thought cheating was wrong. He thought it was a man's privilege, natural. His only mistake was getting caught. Ethan, you really disgust me. I didn't hide my disgust. I'm truly glad I didn't marry someone like you. Disgust? Ethan's expression became more ferocious. Then today, I'll make you even more disgusted. He suddenly charged at me, trying to grab me. I dodged sideways and ran toward the stairwell. But high heels limited my speed, and he soon caught up. Miss Sophia, you can't escape. Ethan grabbed my hair and dragged hard. You ruined me, I'll ruin you too. I'll let everyone know the Sue family's heiress is nothing special. My scalp tingled from the drag, but I still struggled desperately. Let me go. Ethan, doing this will only make things worse. Worse? Ethan laughed maniacally. Can it be worse than now? I have nothing left, what is there to fear? At that moment, hurried footsteps came from the stairwell. Miss Sophia. It was the company security. They heard my cries for help and rushed over. Ethan heard the sound and panically let go of me. Miss Sophia, this isn't over. He glared viciously at me, then turned and ran toward the emergency exit. The security rushed over to support me. Miss Sophia, are you okay? I'm fine. I arranged my disheveled hair. Quick, chase him, don't let him escape. The security immediately split to chase Ethan. But it was too late, he had long disappeared into the vast night. I sat on the ground, still trembling all over. If not for the security arriving in time, the consequences would be unimaginable. I took out my phone and dialed the police. Hello, 911? I want to report a case. The next morning, the police arrested him at his residence. He didn't resist, even looking somewhat relieved. In the interrogation room, he admitted last night's actions but refused to plead guilty. I didn't commit a crime. Ethan said to the police, I just wanted to talk to Miss Sophia. Dragging the victim's hair, this is called talking? The police questioned. She wouldn't talk properly, so I had to force a bit. Ethan still didn't think he was wrong, and I didn't really hurt her. Mr. Ethan, your actions constitute intentional injury and intimidation. The police said seriously, you must bear legal responsibility. Legal responsibility? Ethan sneered, I'd like to see what the Sue family can do to me. He obviously hadn't recognized reality yet. Still thinking he was that arrogant rich second generation. Unaware he was now a penniless criminal. Accompanied by my lawyer, I went to the police station to make a statement. I described last night's events in detail and provided the parking lot surveillance video as evidence. Miss Sophia, based on the evidence, we can prosecute Ethan for intentional injury. The handling officer said, but considering you weren't substantially harmed, he might only get a light sentence. I understand. I nodded, but I want to add another charge. What charge? Extortion. I took out a recording file. This is Ethan's threatening recording. He said he'd ruin my reputation unless I agreed to his conditions. The officer listened to the recording, his face becoming serious. this does constitute extortion. If convicted, he might face 3 to 5 years in prison. Then proceed like that. Leaving the police station, I felt much lighter. Although Ethan hadn't been convicted yet, at least he was temporarily detained and wouldn't harass me anymore. Back at the company, the secretary told me a message. Sophia, Lily committed suicide last night. I was stunned. What? She took poison at home. When discovered, it was too late. The secretary's voice was heavy. It said she left a suicide note mentioning you. I sat in the chair, my mood suddenly complex. Although I hated Lily, hearing of her suicide still shocked me. What did the note say? She said, "She was sorry to you, please forgive her." The secretary said cautiously, also that this month she lived worse than death, regretting every day. I was silent for a long time. Should I be responsible for Lily's death? If I hadn't made those photos and recordings public, if I hadn't made her a target, would she not have died? But on second thought, her death was her own choice. I just made her bear the deserved consequences. If she truly regretted, she could have chosen to leave the city and start over elsewhere. Not choose death to escape. Sophia, are you okay? The secretary asked concernedly. I'm fine. I took a deep breath. Let Lily's matter be, no need to follow any more. One more thing. The secretary continued, Margaret wants to see you. I thought, let her in. A few minutes later, Margaret was ushered in. Compared to last time, she looked even more haggard. Eyes bloodshot, cheeks sunken. Miss Sophia. As she spoke, her voice choked, please, let Ethan go. Aunt Margaret, I've already let him go. I said calmly, but he won't let himself go. Last night's incident was initiated by him, not forced by me. I know. Margaret cried, but he's like this now, aren't you satisfied? Satisfied with what? I countered, seeing him ruined? Seeing him imprisoned? Aunt Margaret, do you think I'm such a vicious person? Margaret was stunned. I've never thought of ruining him. I continued, I just want him to bear the deserved consequences. If he honestly accepted reality and settled as an ordinary employee, I wouldn't trouble him anymore. But he wasn't willing to give up, he wanted revenge on me, that's why what happened last night happened. Can I be blamed for this? Margaret didn't answer, she just cried even harder. Aunt Margaret, I understand your maternal feelings. My tone softened, but some things, once done, require bearing consequences. This is a basic principle of being human. If everyone who errs can escape responsibility with I'm already miserable, where is fairness in society? Margaret lifted her head to look at me, Miss Sophia, you've changed. Yes, I've changed. I didn't deny, after betrayal and hurt, people change. The old me was too naive, too kind, so I was deceived and hurt. Now I've learned to protect myself, to fight back. Is there anything wrong with that? Margaret was silent for a long time, finally saying, Miss Sophia, I beg you one last time, for our family's long relationship, give Ethan a chance. What chance? Let him leave this city, start over elsewhere. Margaret pleaded, I guarantee he'll never appear before you again. I thought, this depends on the court's judgment. If the court agrees to probation or external execution, I won't oppose. But there's a condition. What condition? He must publicly apologize, admit his mistakes, and guarantee no more harassment. Margaret nodded quickly, I'll make him do it. Then so be it. I stood up, Aunt Margaret, go back and advise him well to recognize reality. Continuing like this benefits no one. After Margaret left, I sat down again. Actually, I didn't want to escalate things too much. Ethan was hateful, but not deserving death. If he could sincerely repent, I'd give him a chance to start over. The key is having an attitude of admitting wrong and determination to change. Not like now, refusing to admit and seeking revenge. A week later, the court heard Ethan's case. On his lawyer's advice, Ethan pleaded guilty. In court, he publicly apologized, admitted his mistakes, and expressed willingness to bear all legal responsibilities. The judge, considering it was his first offense and good plea attitude, sentenced him to 3 years imprisonment, suspended for 5 years. This meant no jail time but community supervision and no leaving the city. After the verdict, Ethan approached me. "Miss Sophia, thank you." His voice was low. "I know if not for your leniency, I might really go to jail." "No need to thank me." I looked at him. "This is the court's judgment, not my gift." "I know." Ethan nodded, "But I still thank you. Also, I want to apologize to you." "Why apologize?" "For all the wrongs I've done." Ethan said seriously, "Cheating, betrayal, deception, revenge, these are all my faults. I now understand I hurt someone who truly loved me. I'm sorry." I looked at him, mixed feelings in my heart. Such an apology came too late. If a month ago he could apologize so sincerely, things might not have reached this point. "Ethan, I accept your apology," I said, "but I won't forgive you. Because some hurts, once caused, can't be undone. Some trusts, once lost, can't be rebuilt." Ethan nodded, "I understand." "Then, good luck." I turned to leave. "I hope you can truly start over." Walking out of the court, the sunlight was just right. I looked up at the sky, suddenly feeling relieved. This 2-month war finally ended. Although the process was painful, the result was satisfactory. Ethan got his due punishment, I got my due justice. Most importantly, I grew a lot in this process. Learned to be strong, independent, to protect myself. These are precious treasures. Half a year later, my life was fully on track. Under my management, the Sue Group flourished, market value doubled. The GU Group was fully integrated, becoming a subsidiary of the Sue Group. I became the city's youngest female entrepreneur, often on finance magazine covers. Ethan, per the court's judgment, did community volunteer service. Heard he performed well and applied for early release from supervision. We occasionally met in public but tacitly avoided each other. He didn't harass me anymore, I didn't trouble him. Like two parallel lines, no more intersection. As for Lily, her death became gossip for many. Some said she deserved it, others self-inflicted. But soon, everyone forgot her. As I said before, the world doesn't stop turning for anyone's departure. That afternoon, I was processing files in the office when the secretary knocked. "Sophia, a gentleman wants to see you." "Who?" "He says he's an investor returning from overseas, wanting to discuss a cooperation project." I checked my schedule, no other plans in the afternoon. "Let him in." A few minutes later, a man about 30 entered. He wore a well-tailored dark suit, gold-rimmed glasses, looking scholarly. "Miss Sophia, pleased to meet you." He extended his hand. "I'm James, just back from the UK." "Mr. James, please sit." I shook his hand. "I hear you have a cooperation project to discuss?" "Yes." James sat and took a file from his briefcase. "This is a project on new energy technology. I think it has great prospects." I took the file and read carefully. The content was detailed, technical route clear, it looked valuable for investment. "Mr. James, what's the investment scale?" "Initial investment needs about $5 billion. James said, "If smooth, profitable in 3 years." $5 billion isn't small, but for the current Sue Group, it's bearable. And from the prospects, it's worth investing. "Mr. James, why choose the Sue Group?" I put down the file. With this project's quality, many institutions should be interested. There are 2 reasons. James smiled. First, the Sue Group has strong local influence, helping the project land quickly. Second, I admire Miss Sophia's abilities. Admire? I was surprised. "Mr. James, this is our first meeting, right?" "First meeting, but not first understanding." James said, "Your handling of the GU incident impressed me. Decisive, efficient, measured. Such a partner is what I need." I looked at him, feeling alert. His words sounded like praise, but something felt off. Mr. James, you know so much about me. Did you specifically investigate me? You could say that. James didn't hide. Before choosing partners, I did some research. After all, $5 billion investment isn't small. I must ensure partner reliability. This explanation sounded reasonable, but I still felt uncomfortable. Mr. James, I need time to consider this project. I said, if you're not in a hurry, give me a week. Of course. James stood, then I won't disturb you. Here's my card, contact me anytime with questions. After he left, I reread the project file. Technically, it had great prospects. But I felt James was mysterious. For safety, I decided to have his background investigated. The next day, investigation results came. James was indeed an investor back from the UK, with his own company in London. His background was clean, no bad records. His investments were successful, good industry reputation. He seemed reliable. But a detail in the report caught my attention. James returned 3 months ago, right after my fallout with Ethan. His first act was understanding the Sue Group. The timing was too coincidental. I had the secretary investigate deeper, but no more clues. James' movements were normal, no suspicious contacts. Perhaps I overthought. After all, the Sue Group is prominent, investor attention is normal. A week later, I decided to meet James for details. We met at a high-end cafe. Miss Sophia, how's your consideration? James asked directly. I'm interested in the project. I said, but I have a condition. What condition? I want control. James was stunned. Control? Yes, the Sue Group wants 51% shares. I watched his reaction. This is my bottom line. James was silent, then said, Miss Sophia, this project is led by me, technology developed by my team. Giving you control seems unreasonable. Then no need for cooperation. I said without hesitation, Mr. James, cooperation requires equality and trust. If unwilling to let me control, it shows limited trust in me. I won't participate in such cooperation. James looked at me, a complex emotion flashing in his eyes. Miss Sophia, you're very smart. What do you mean? Nothing. James smiled. I need to discuss with the team. Okay. I stood. Mr. James, I'll wait for your reply. But I already had the answer in my heart. James wouldn't agree. Because his purpose wasn't cooperation. Sure enough, the next day James called, saying after careful consideration, they decided not to proceed. Reason, differing philosophies. I put down the phone and told the secretary, continue investigating James, I want his real purpose. Yes, Sophia. A month later, the truth surfaced. James was indeed an investor from the UK, but his real purpose wasn't investment, but revenge. He was Lily's cousin. After Lily's suicide, her family thought I forced her to death. James, the most capable in the family, was entrusted to return for revenge. His plan was simple, approach via investment project, then find ways to collapse the Sue Group. But he didn't expect my control demand, disrupting his plan. Now he's seeking other opportunities to disintegrate the Sue Group from inside. Knowing the truth, I felt relieved instead. At least James was no longer mysterious, but an enemy with clear motives. Enemies are scary, but at least I know what he wants. I immediately strengthened company security and alerted all employees. At the same time, I proactively investigated James' domestic activities. Since he wants to fight me, I'll fight to the end. Just didn't expect, after half a year, to face a new war. It seems some people are destined to be my enemies. James' revenge plan was more complex than imagined. In the following months, the Sue Group encountered inexplicable problems. Several key clients suddenly cancelled, all citing company strategy adjustment. Key suppliers delayed deliveries, affecting production. Even banks reassessed our loans. These seemed normal individually, but together suspicious. Investigation showed these clients and suppliers recently contacted Lingyun Investment, whose legal representative was James. He was using capital to besiege the Su Group. Sophia, if this continues, our cash flow may have issues. The CFO said worriedly, James' methods are insidious, not a fatal blow, but slowly draining us. Then we can't let him succeed. I calmly analyzed, his influencing these shows he paid a high price. What we do is make his price wasted. How? Take initiative. I stood and walked to the window. Since he wants to collapse the Su Group, we'll collapse him first. In the next month, I mobilized all Su family networks. My dad's old friends, my accumulated connections all used. I wanted James to know, in this city, the Su family is the true king. Soon, James felt the pressure. His investment company faced difficulties. Sudden business inspections, key tax audits, fire safety checks. Though normal enforcements, the intensity was unbearable. Worse, his negotiated projects had issues. Project parties changed minds, refusing his investment. Various reasons, but same result, rejection. James couldn't sit still. He contacted me for negotiation. We met at a quiet private club. Miss Sophia, your methods are impressive. James admitted defeat upon meeting. I underestimated your local influence. Mr. James, you're too kind. I said lightly, I'm just protecting my company. Protecting? James smiled bitterly, you call this protecting? You mobilized almost the entire city's power against me. How is this different from you using capital against the Su Group? I countered. James was silent. Mr. James, let's talk openly. I looked at him, your revenge for Lily, I understand. But your chosen method is wrong. What's the right way? Talk to me directly. I said, if you stated your intention from the start, perhaps we could find a solution. Not using such insidious means. James looked at me, eyes complex, Miss Sophia, do you really think you're faultless? Of course I have faults. I didn't evade, my fault is being too merciful. If I had been ruthless to Lily from the start, perhaps she wouldn't have had the chance to do those things. If I had been harsher to Ethan, perhaps he wouldn't have revenge ideas. My mercy became their weapon to hurt me. James was stunned, you think like that? What else? I countered, Mr. James, do you think Lily was innocent? She seduced a married man, destroyed a marriage, and humiliated the original partner on the wedding day. Such a person dying, isn't it normal? James was shocked by my words. He didn't expect me to be so direct, so cold. Miss Sophia, Lily was still alive. Life? I interrupted, Mr. James, do you know how many lives Lily almost forced to death? If I weren't strong enough, if the Su family weren't powerful enough, perhaps the dead one now would be me. Have you thought of that? James was silent. Because he knew I was right. If Miss Sophia was an ordinary girl facing Ethan and Lily's betrayal, she might have chosen suicide. Mr. James, let me ask you. I continued, if someone hurt your family, what would you do? I'd seek revenge. James answered without hesitation. That's right. I smiled, I'm also seeking revenge. We're essentially the same. Not the same. James shook his head, your revenge targets those who hurt you, while mine targets the innocent. Innocent? I looked at him, Mr. James, do you think I'm innocent? I haven't actively hurt anyone, I'm just protecting myself. Yet you revenge on me for a malicious mistress's death. Doesn't this logic seem absurd? James was speechless. Because logically, I was innocent. Lily's death was her choice, not forced by me. Mr. James, I propose a truce. I extended my hand, continuing the fight benefits no one. James looked at my hand, hesitating long. Finally, he shook my hand. Miss Sophia, I admit defeat. He said, but this matter won't end here. What do you mean? Lily's parents are waiting for my news. James said, if I tell them I failed, they might use more extreme methods. My heart sank. More extreme methods, what does that mean? Mr. James, are you threatening me? Not a threat, a reminder. James stood. Miss Sophia, your enemies may be more than you imagine. Be careful. He left, leaving me sitting there alone. I knew this war hadn't truly ended. James was just the first, more enemies would come. But I'm not afraid. I'm no longer the naive, kind Sue heiress from 3 years ago. Now, I have enough strength and wisdom to protect myself. No matter how many enemies come, I'll let them know, Miss Sophia is not to be messed with.